So you've got Epstein's fingers tied directly through him, through Maxwell. We can also look at Peter Thiel, who has monetary connections directly to Epstein, going all the way back to his Carbine 911, which had direct ties to the former Prime Minister of Israel. It's like at every angle of the Epstein-Maxwell story, there is one group of people, there is one nation, and I bring up Blinken's grandfather.
He's talking about the Israel connection, by the way. I think we can stop dancing around it.
Yeah, no, that is the connection. It's and what I believe is loosely Jewish supremacy. But I just suggested to say, and I brought up Blinken and JFK because I think that Epstein Island is merely the latest incarnation of blackmail, bribery, and assassination threats, where a singular group's interest has basically at every turn been able to manipulate not only the highest levels of politics, but also of the media, of Fortune 500 companies, and to basically say, hey, whether it is through a bullet in the case of JFK, whether it is through what I believe were tapes used to incriminate Nixon, who was very outspoken against the Israeli lobby and their interests in Washington, D.C., and most recently with Jeffrey Epstein, it is a group of people using any mechanism available to ensure that at the highest levels of all of those silos of power, they get who they want in office, what they want in terms of legislation. And if we then look at the most recent rendition of who it is that's supposed to be investigating these things, we can even look at Kash Patel, who his girlfriend, of all places, prior to dating this man, and she's a pretty woman, and he is not an attractive man. They're almost double in terms of age, right? This is a far younger woman, and prior to being with Kash Patel, was working for PragerU. And if we look at who literally ran that organization, it was the former Israeli Unit 8200 leader. And so, again, these fingerprints are just all over everything. I thought I would just add that. Again, I don't want to be redundant. I want to be respectful of space and try to be concise. But, Diligent, I just want to throw that out there in case any of those points were kind of left off the table for anybody.
No, and we kind of explored the connections between the intelligence agencies, including Mossad and Ghislaine Maxwell's father last night. And he even, Good Logic is a Jewish person, and he even conceded that, there was a connection between, Israeli intelligence and Ghislaine Maxwell, right? Like, I feel like I just want to make sure that we're that clear. I am not being partisan in that matter. I'm willing to explore avenues in line for thought as long as they are grounded in some type of verifiable facts. And so, but thank you for that, Ian. Let's go to Good Logic, and we'll go to MG.
Just to follow up on that, I think that it's perfectly reasonable to explore whether Mossad or Israel agents are involved in Epstein. I question when people say that this is what it was rather than being CIA, FBI, MI6, or some consortium of these different intelligence agencies.
More than one thing can be true at the same time.
Right, and when people get fixated that it's about the Jews, then I start questioning, okay, are you really looking for truth here, or are you looking to find someone that you can, a popular entity that you can point your finger at, which is great for getting clicks?
No, 100% true. Chad, I want to get your thoughts on all of this.
I couldn't get to the microphone. Okay.
There you go, brother.
Well, I worked on the Trump campaign and still advocate, and but I've always been honest with people asking me questions, and ultimately, this is an abject failure. There's no other way to go about it. There is no other way to look at it. I don't know exactly whose feet this will fall at. I am in by no means, everybody, I'm seeing people out there, I'm ride or die with Trump. I'm ride or die with America. That's who I made my oath to. And ultimately, the problem I have with this, Diligent, and I work closely with General Flynn, and I understand the intel world, I understand MI6, I understand CIA, and you're never going to know unless somebody wants you to know, and then they're going to cloud what they put out. I mean, we've already seen that Prince Numbnuts over in England was there and was a part of it, and girls have come out and said he did X, Y, and Z. He's still walking around. It's all good. The system. We need to change Lady Lady Justice and take that blindfold and take one eye out from underneath that blindfold, because it is absolutely 100% multiple tiers of justice, whether it's Trump in the White House or anybody else. And that's been widely known for a long time, and some of us live in a bubble. But ultimately, I don't know whose feet this lies at, but I'll say this. This is the ugliest optics I've ever seen come out of the Trump campaign. And Karen LaVette going up and hitting that lectern today pompously, saying, they did their job, it's done. It was an abject failure to the American people, and it brings us back to the binder rollout and everything else. And it's, we're not used to seeing failures come out of a Trump universe, you know. I keep looking for, okay, this seems like a failure, and Trump usually comes out on the other side of this. And I think that he will and he can, but I think what you're going to have is what I call the politician two-step. They're going to be quiet. They're going to let this die. There's going to be more things that are going to end up in the news cycle, and it's going to be that everyday post like we see on Twitter, like, hey, what about, I don't know, Fort Knox? Were we supposed to go in there? Hey, what about Fauci? You know, it'll be a random post like that when there's something new and exciting to go out. I think this will last for a couple of weeks, and I think we're going to, and I studied. I went on MSNBC, watched it for a couple hours. I watched CNN for a couple hours. I watched all of them. Nobody's talking about this, which tells me that they're all on the same page. Nobody wants to talk about Epstein. It is in the elites, in the media, whether it's Jews or Brazilians or whoever. It's that nobody in the elitists want to talk about this, and the reason why is that I think that and people are saying, well, why wouldn't they let it if Trump was involved in any way, which I'm not saying he was, but they're saying, what if Trump was involved, and why wouldn't they put it out there at Biden? Because this is quite possibly bigger than any of us could ever put our hand on, and it would take the entire system down, including but not limited to the globalist deep state. And
what do you think about my notion that if it would take the system down, that it should? Is that ill on me?
You know, I was in here and I was sitting here thinking, and part of me, you know, knee jerk was like, don't be stupid diligent. But as I think about it, and if I'm going to be real to what my code dictates, burn the whole motherfucker down. Take every one of them, put them in the gallows, put them in the jails, do whatever you got to do. There are thousands of little kids out there. We're not even talking about the ones that are being brought across the border. And I was a firefighter, you know that, Diligent. And I worked with a lot of cops. I was on the medic SWAT team. And I'm going to tell you right now, you want to see cops do some heroic and crazy shit, put kids involved. And this has got to stop. Hollywood's got to burn. The Capitol Hill needs to burn. And what I mean by burn is, I mean the people that are in a position and have done anything that is wrong. It's just like the Democrats say and the Republicans say, nobody is bigger than justice. Okay, well, then all of you need to answer to that. And that's what I have a problem here with the optics. I don't know where this goes, how far it goes, and I probably never will. But this will always be in my crawl as something that we, the people, were, again, jammed down our throat. And I believe in what you said, that we're a resilient people. And I just don't know if there's enough good people to make that happen, Diligent. I really don't. And there isn't going to be a whistleblower that's going to come out and say, here it all is, because they will cloud the waters in when you're dealing with intel and spy networks. I've always said this, you've heard me say it before. If they want you to know, you're going to know. If they don't want you to know, you're not going to know. And if you know and you're not supposed to know, they're going to kill you. That's how the game's played. In the simplest way to understand.
I think it would be worth losing my life to get the truth out there and give these thousands of little kids justice and prevent it from happening to potentially thousands or even more in the future.
I can appreciate that, Diligent, and the sad part about that is they're going to cloud your message, and it's not going to ever get out. This machine is way bigger than something we would ever understand, and there'll be, you know, the new Qs or they'll name themselves something different to put out your truth, but you'll never get the populace to do it until we take control of the machine that dictates to the populace.
Chad, I don't think it's just a failure, right? I think it's an actual slap in the face to hit supporters. Like, to be completely honest, like, for how long have we been yelling about this? How long have we been bringing this up? And everybody, even Dan don't you ever let this go. There is a list out there, and you deserve it. You better stay on this. And then you walk into the FBI and turn around and go, oh, Epstein killed himself in the Manhattan jail and there's no list, and you think we're just going to sit here and take it? Like, if you love your country right now, like, I understand you might love the president, you love your country, you're going to stand up and say, no, we're not taking this. We know there's a list, and we stay on this until the day, like, we get a list or some answers, because these are not answers. And for them to stand at the podium and say, it's over, case closed, don't ask any more questions, like, I'm sorry, I don't listen to directions real well. So I'm still going to ask questions.
You're right, and the big problem that I have with this too is we've seen this already where social understanding is dictated from an elected position or an appointed position, that being the Supreme Court. We watched them have leaks for the first time in the Supreme Court, like when it came down to Roe v. Wade. They leaked that so that the American people could argue about it before it was ever adjudicated to be real. So when they did actually come out with the notion that Roe v. Wade was in fact unconstitutional, there wasn't riots in the street. The problem is allowing the government to dictate that social norm and them trying to read the tea leaves as to understanding how the American people will react. And that's not something that is for the people, by the people, right? So you're right, Jennifer. It's a slap in the face. It feels like a slap in the face. I actually feel like it's more like a punch in the eye. I am a different animal, though, because I do understand the intelligence world. I've been in your space, his space, and said, you're not going to learn anything. I remember when the binders came out, and I talked to Scott Pressler. He said, I'm not going to speak on it till 11 o'clock. I said, there's nothing in it, and everybody jumped my shit. And there wasn't. So the understanding how this intel machine works, and I suggested, whether you like General Flynn or not, go listen to him, because
I just invited him to the space, Chad.
What's that?
Well, Chad, even if we don't get answers.
I just invited him to the space, I said.
Chad, even if we don't get answers.
Via DM, though, not a text. What were you saying, Chad? All right, cool.
I agree with you, Chad, right? We're not going to get answers because it is an intelligence agency thing, right? But to just bend over and accept these answers and accept this situation we're being presented with is setting a standard that I'm not willing to live with, right? I'm not going to live with everything else that we've been demanding for them just to come out and be like, oh, sorry, case closed. Don't ask any more questions. No, sir. We lived through the last 4 years, the last 8 years, where I slapped myself because I didn't ask questions, where I didn't push hard enough. So you know what? I'm not going to sit up here when we know for sure this is bullshit. We know there is a list. We know what Jeffrey Epstein was doing, and we're being treated like we're idiots.
Especially, yeah, and Chad, the binders were a troll on the American people. There was nothing good behind that. There was a satanic troll against we the people.
The satanic stuff, though, bro. I mean, come on. I mean, I get it. I said that myself, but everything. MG, even very, very patient. We'll go through the hands. You guys, if you have your hands up, no one's speaking. Chime in. Go ahead, MG.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I was driving, so I appreciate you just telling me when it's good to go. No, I largely agree with what Chad said. I'm right now in the mindset that our systems are so broken beyond repair. But as far as accountability goes, and you guys have all been various people have been talking about the binders and that ridiculous rollout. I mean, ultimately, I think that Pam Bondi is in way over her head. Now, as frustrated as I've been with her, and I think many of you have as well, just keep in mind, I really think that Trump's not going to go if he asks for her resignation or however this pans out. He's not going to go the acting route, like when Sessions stepped down or whatever, and there was that fill-in time before Sessions and Bill, what's his name there. So that's something to consider. You have to remember, too, the AG, of course, as you all know, goes through the Senate. As you saw with the big, beautiful bill, the Senate is not really on the same page with a spending bill, never mind another set of approvals. So I think he's going to wait till after the midterms when maybe we net 55 GOP senators to get an AG that's more suitable for this job. I always had my reservations with her. I kind of don't know what happened with Gates, but I just maybe he didn't think he'd get through the Senate confirmation process. That's a big part of it. Like, I was all thinking in the first administration, Rudy Giuliani for AG or somebody like that, some hard charger in theory. But it's about getting him approved in the Senate. I mean, there's a reason why Sessions got through. He was not a popular senator. They probably wanted to get rid of him Mitch wanted to get rid of him in the GOP caucus in 2017. There were a lot of reasons behind it. And he was ineffective as well, as we all know, sadly. But as far as that, I know you've got a policy, Diligent, and I do agree with that about not talking about people when they're not here, but it's just something to bring up because she mentioned you specifically or she said something to you. So I didn't recognize the voice, and I've not been on the speaker box all day in your space since I popped in. But that Caitlin from Texas lady, because I didn't recognize her voice, I clicked on the profile. I'm blocked. Never had any interaction.
She has a lot of people blocked, I'm seeing in the comments.
Okay, all right. Okay, so because she said she was sending you some thread on a personal testimony of hers. I know you're a discerning guy, but this is the problem. When we're really frustrated,
Lots of people are seeking clout or attention on this. We have to be careful.
Yes. So I mean, that you're going to go.
And I'm not saying she is, but it is something that we need to be aware of.
Right. And I'll just end it with this. You're going to go into other poorly, spaces that are poorly moderated, unlike this one on this subject at some point. And everybody's got a story to tell, and everybody's got a connection. 6 degrees of separation, so just be mindful of that. As much as we're upset.
How do you feel about this? Give me your general sentiments about the administration, Trump, and the handling of this. And what do you think this is going to do to the base? Because I really usually have a pretty objective opinion.
Appreciate it. Yeah. So it's going to be the hardest thing from an optics standpoint he's going to have to overcome. As much as pandemic was, but in a different sense. Like I said, right now my ire is with Bondi. I know why he selected her, because he could get 58 votes at least in the Senate. That's a big part of these things, guys. Like, I know nobody wants to hear it now. Like, it's all, Matt Gates had a lot of enemies on Capitol Hill, which is why he was probably the right guy for the job. But you have to have 50 GOP senators that are willing to pull the trigger and vote yes. So, at least, or 51. So, it's great. It's like fantasy football. We want all these people in, we want Robert Malone as HHS secretary, whatever. But anyway, my overall take is that Bondi is not up for this at all, and I really blame her. That binder rollout was ridiculous. I haven't met a single person on here or in real life that follows it that thinks that was a good idea. I don't even know what the purpose of that was, what the objective of it was. So she's not ready to be in this role, and guys, make no mistake, it's the #1 lawmaker in the country. As everybody reports to her, DEA, ATF. The buck stops with her. I'm not ready to throw it at the president's feet because, there's a reason why she's tasked and was given the awesome responsibility of AG, knowing full well that this would be part of the job description, and she wasn't up to it. I mean, she might be doing great with the deportations and fighting the injunctions. That's probably a reason why she's going to kick around longer than we want, because she's, think about the relationship that Trump had with Rod Rosenstein in the first term, and Session being ineffectual. So, as much as this sucks to hear, unless he's really upset about this, which he might be, and we don't know, and he asks for her resignation and she tenders it, I don't foresee her going just yet.
It didn't sound like it from his tweet. He put out a tweet and said that, Cash and Dan and the FBI were going to get back to basics and go after criminals, which kind of made it sound like his participation and interest in involving them in the Epstein case is done. It kind of sounded like he was validating the notion. So that means that this goes all the way up to the top and is being signed off by Donald Trump. That's what that means.
Well, Diligent, I don't know how you can honestly say it doesn't go all the way to the top in some way or another, but I actually read that tweet a little different. I think it leaves open to the concept that because he didn't say anything about Pambani, right? He said, I'm putting Kath and Dan Bongino to go after criminals. Now, was that a way for him to say, I disagree with this, and I'm leaving Pam Bondi out of it, and I'm wanting Cash and them to bring about indictments? We don't ever know. But I would agree that I can't lay this directly at Pam Bondi's feet, on Bongino's feet, or Cath's feet without the president, because the press secretary walked up there and very flippantly said, that's all, folks, and she speaks for the president. So I have a real problem with where this thing lies. I'm not, again, I'm a Trump guy, and that's where I'm hurt the most here, is that I don't see that fierce machine that has got in front of very small people that were unjustly taken, put in prison, and this seems to be we're done and move on. It doesn't pass the smell test, I guess, is the only way I can really say it.
I want to jump in with something that is a very unpopular take, and sometimes I don't mind doing that. But this is kind of an important.
How much?
I'm being paid zero by anybody, thank God. So this is the truth, okay? First of all, Epstein was horrible. We all know that. What Pam Bondi did was totally stupid. And Chad was right. I remember Chad on those faces. Chad, you called it. There was nothing. Dylan, you said the same. I thought maybe there was, and I was wrong. So I'm not being paid by anybody. But here's the thing we need to be self-aware about, okay? We need to kind of look inwardly a little bit and ask ourselves this question. Every time there's some big news item, okay, we get kind of torn and we move in this direction, we move in that direction, and it's all this sensational
excitement. My position has been consistent on this issue the entire time.
No. I'm not saying you, and I'm not even really talking about our positions. I'm talking about MAGA as a whole. Because what's happened to us as a movement, okay, we have a couple of votes in the House margin and a few in the Senate. And we've allowed ourselves as a movement, this entire movement, all the conservatives, everybody supports President Trump, we've allowed ourselves to in some ways be controlled by issues that are important. I mean, Epstein's a very important issue, there's no doubt about it. There's also 50 million people around the world who are in human trafficking, and about 30 to 40% of those are kids. And there's 170,000 in Iraq. There's 140,000 I think in Syria. I mean, there's like all these people around the world, and in the United States, there's 500,000 kids missing, right? So we focus in on the Epstein thing, and notice how the media stokes that fire. Like that's what we're supposed to pay attention to, and this has been the case for a long time. They did it with the January 6th stuff. They did it with the Russiagate. They did it with all this different stuff. We try to direct our attention, and I'm not even calling it a conspiracy, but the sensational stuff is what sells. Meanwhile, we're not getting enough seats in Congress to be able to pass the agenda without making major compromises to the lobbyists and to the well-to-do ones. We're not able to even deal with, all the problems. All these crazy protesters, all the actual other human trafficking issues that are going on, all the other problems that are huge problems, but we're not focused consistently on the issues that are big issues. And I think that the challenge I have is we do get distracted very easily. Yes, the Epstein thing's massive, it's a huge disappointment, but I think that in the broad aggregate, there's a lot of things we've been distracted to, we've been disappointed, and this movement is getting divided. And to be blunt with you, Elon's taking advantage of it. If the American Party runs candidates, third-party candidates against Republican candidates, it's going to hurt the Republican candidates. Obviously, it's not.
You are not going to guilt me into going along with this shit because they're going to lose in the midterm. This is their fuck up. This is not on the American people. Our emotions are justified. These are valid feelings. Our responses are valid. We're not going to emotionally blackmail me with the midterms and say, what about it? No, Elon Musk lost the party 2 days ago when he announced it, and then this shit out after that. That's their bad. That's not on us.
This isn't a debate or a tactic fight or that you're supposed to look for taxes and they did it. This has been a constant issue for 8 years that we have been told that there's a list that Epstein didn't kill himself, that Bill Clinton and all these freaking people, we're gonna go down, this, that, and the other. Don't come up here and act like we didn't get our tax increase or tax decrease when you're talking about the Epstein files. This is a lie. This is a lie, and this is all on the face of the administration, and you are trying to help us.
So here's the question I asked her. Why did Bonnie lie? Why did she feel the need to go and bullshit everybody on Fox News?
Why did she cover for Epstein in the early 2000s when she was the assistant DA in Florida? Why did she cover for him then, Jeff?
Let me answer that. Her justification is irrelevant to the argument. Okay? The results are what matters. Right?
Well,
Like, you're trying to.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, bro, but it's actually really simple. Why she was writing checks her ass couldn't cash the minute she took the position. And with an open line, meaning as the Attorney General, she's allowed to jump on Fox News as many times as she wants without the White House having a problem. She's allowed to speak at any given time to reporters as if others aren't, right, that are staffers. So that's really what it comes down to is it seemed like she was enjoying it. It seemed like she thought she was going to be this great savior of some kind. And just like when you heard Johnson say that we're not giving any more money to Ukraine, and he went into a skiff and came out, and they showed him a picture with him on a donkey or something. I'm just making that up for the lawyers out there. But he came out and all of a sudden gave $50 billion to Ukraine again. This is what happens with the deep state. And it's not surprising to me that she thought she was going to go in there and do something, and then reality kicked her in the teeth. So it's not that weird that she changed her position. And, please, Millie, I would love to hear your position.
No, the thing is she lied then or lied now? You said she lied then, but how do we know? Was she lying then or lying now?
I didn't say she lied. I said she wrote checks her ass couldn't cash. She didn't have the information. That's
said
evidence.
she came out
She said
lying.
it was on her desk, man.
Yeah, she said it was on her desk, and then she was told she's not allowed to put that out.
She lied then or lied now? And that's the problem.
You can't hear what we're doing because that's what Millie does. She just talks over you so that you.
No, you were actually talking over me.
She wasn't talking over you, though, Chad.
But she is.
No, I was not. You were talking over
I
me.
apologize. You're not talking over me this time.
Oh my God.
But at the end of the day, she wrote out there and got excited about something. Then she was told she's not allowed to do it. She got slapped, and now it's all done and over with. She said it was on her desk. Somebody obviously got to her and said that's where we feel that people are compromised. It happens. I just gave Johnson. We all were like, what the hell? You just went into a skiff and came out and gave $50 million to Ukraine again, and then a subsequent another $5 billion. I don't understand how people don't understand that these people get shown something or told something and put their life in a position. That's how intel works. That's how spying rings work. That's how the honeypot works. Everybody has their reason. So I think she just went stupid, and now she's got to pay for it. And I'm more than likely she'll be the fall guy once this gets heated up enough.
And Kat Patel.
I agree with everything. Wait, I agree with everything you just said, Chad. But here's the thing, Chad. We all spent weeks talking about Epstein when there were other issues that were equally and actually way more important, truthfully, for the immediate security of the city.
That's in your mind. Okay,
No, that's not in my mind, dude. That's actually what happened.
There's no more important issue than me than the ending of child sexual assaults in this country and the cover-up within our government. That is the top priority to me.
I'm talking about the dog and pony show. I'm talking about the binders. I'm talking about the dog and pony show they put on. That controlled the media cycle for conservatives, and we weren't talking about the border. We weren't talking about all the waste. We weren't talking about all the foreign issues. We weren't talking about any of that
We
stuff.
definitely were. Like, I don't understand where you have this dichotomy in your head that doesn't exist, bro.
No, I'm not talking about diligent, and I'm not talking about really anybody here, but there are plenty of people, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Chad knows what I'm talking about. Y'all know, Jeffrey, you know these people
Yeah,
too.
but why are you giving those people power by even acknowledging them?
Because they've taken a huge portion of the MAGA movement and split it away from focusing on the ball,
If we go
focusing on policy.
somewhere else, because I'm pretty sure everybody's still on this platform unless they're a small little dick motherfucker who left yesterday.
I mean, I'm looking at a lot of people right now who are claiming they're going to go leave the Republican Party for the American Party.
Good. Goodbye.
Who on this stage said they were leaving the Republican Party? I never made that claim.
Not on this stage, but there have been plenty of people that accept that.
Okay, let me generalize it doesn't apply to the group of people you're speaking to.
Okay,
No, not here, but you guys know what I'm talking about. Come on.
Whose fault is that? It's not the Republican Party's fault for not delivering on what they promised, is it? Is it all on the people that are pissed off that left because they feel like they've been lied to? Or is it the Republican Party needing to take accountability for, screwing up, essentially, promising things that they didn't deliver on, saying they're going to vote a certain way, and then they get elected in office and they completely freaking 180 on things? That's the reason people are upset here. And you can complain and you can, moan all you want, but the reality is if everything was going the way it should be going and promises were being kept and people were doing what they're supposed to do, you'd have a thriving base right now. The reason things are going
That's my point. I agree with you.
Because bad things are happening. And here's the thing,
I agree with you.
Trump's response to all of this is not, you know what, I'm going to get to the bottom of this because we need answers regarding Epstein. I didn't see that response today. I saw, back to basics. Moving on, and I saw
even
Caroline
worse, they said
Levitt.
no more questions.
Yeah, and I saw Caroline Levitt pretty much, kind of doing damage control. I see Kash Patel, I see Pam Bonet, I see Dan Murphy, all these people who were saying there was all this stuff with Epstein and never let it go, and there's hundreds of, hours and hours of videos. We're going to get the client list. We're going to get more Epstein drops. And then it seems like the whole thing has just went into a vacuum. And
Millie, can I point out one thing? Do you guys realize how many people associated with Epstein have either died or committed suicide? It's not just Virginia Giuffre. It's not just Jeffrey Epstein. Right? You have John Juan, whatever the hell his name is, over in France. Right? There is a whole list of people that have died under mysterious circumstances, whether that be suicide or getting hit by a car or something like that. Why are all these people dying if there's nothing there?
I'm not saying there's nothing there. I'm saying that we're not holding people accountable. Millie made my point. Why are we holding anyone accountable for anything? You know what? It's like they disappoint us, and then we just move on to the next thing. They disappoint us, so we move on to the next thing.
The day you accept these results right now is the day that you are saying, I'm done, Jeffrey Epstein doesn't exist. You know damn well that this is not
I'm not accepting
you.
this,
Not everything is about you, bro.
All right. Okay, bro. Well, listen, I like the indulgent spaces we can say, bro. It's a multi-gender. But let's be honest. There are plenty of people who just move from thing to thing, and we do have to stay focused. We have to hold them accountable. And yeah, Jennifer, you've been doing that. Dilger's been doing that. A lot of folks doing that. But that's why we're having trouble, because when things go wrong, no one seems to hold anybody accountable in general, not people in space, okay? And then we just move from thing to thing to thing, and we get more and more divided.
Which is why I'm saying we should,
tough.
even though Caroline Levitt came out, even though the FBI came out, don't accept it. Start yelling, use your voice, use your platform, force them into a position where we don't
They're actually asking me to ask you to stop yelling, Jen.
Sorry.
And can I just add to that, because we keep forgetting, let's move our goalposts to the idea of let's start a new screw you party and hold them accountable. You're not holding anybody accountable. What you're going to end up is giving it to the Democrats. We're going to end up pissed off at you. We're going to call out the America Party like the shills they are. And when in the end of the day, the American society and what we are and our greatness is that we fight for what we believe in. It's a two-party system. Go fight for your Republican Party. If everybody in this room was a part of it, more than likely we wouldn't have the issues we have, because it starts locally. It starts at your local GOP. It starts in South Carolina. We took over 14 GOPs in one cycle. We have a couple more GOPs to take over, and all we need is 27, and we take over the state. Not a problem. It's not that hard. And if people would learn that and understand that as part of their politics, just not whether or not Nancy Pelosi's husband's getting beat with a hammer with some gay guy. We're into that shit instead of the boring, mundane shit where we got to do it on the local level and take over these GOPs. starting a
And
new
these
party
city
is just a
councils-
big fart in the wind. That's all it is.
And Chad, the city councils in most everybody's city, even in red states, have the farthest left socialist people you could possibly imagine on these school boards. And we've got some of those school board people off around the country. But look at these cities, look at these
We're
counties.
getting off
local-
into the weeds, you guys.
districts.
Yeah, but guys,
But
why
dude,
does
that's
it matter?
where you build the party.
If we
That's
have
what they
people-
matter because you have to hold them accountable.
If-
Everybody's become
Let me
accountable.
just make this clear right now, okay? This is not on the Republican Party. This is not on anybody else but Pam Bondi and the Trump administration. They hold the responsibility of the Epstein debacle in its entirety right now, right? Period. That's a fact. Okay, that's why I'm saying I feel like we're getting off into the weeds talking about replacing Republicans. We've replaced lots of people in Congress over the last 10 years, and the situation over Epstein hasn't changed. And if you don't believe me, there is an Epstein House committee right now. Okay, a friend of mine sits on that committee. Luna chairs it. Have we seen any new revelations regarding the Epstein files? Okay, that does not make a difference. The administration is responsible for the release of these files, the release of the information, the optics, all of it. Okay, and they're accountable. And I'm not trying to listen. I would just love. I think the administration, what needs to happen right now is they need to come out and do a press conference specifically on Epstein. And don't give us any runaround. Don't do what Carolyn Abbott did this morning. That was horrible what she did. The spin, she sounded like Karine Jean-Pierre up there. I'm sorry, but that's a fact. And the American people did not vote for that. When we all campaigned for Donald Trump last year, we did not vote for that. So, I'm going to hold accountability where it's due. The administration needs to come out and talk to the American people about this in a very candid way right now, because they're in danger of really having a rug pull situation with their agenda over the next few years if they don't, I'm afraid. And I'm not saying that as a threat. I'm just reading the room. MG's got his hand up for a while, you guys. Go ahead, MG.
Yeah, thanks, man. I just wanted to put the pin in my take on the Bondi thing. So ultimately, yeah, she's going to be responsible, but I don't think it's going to be anytime soon. But this isn't something that does Trump need to be accountable for this? Absolutely. But I don't think anybody's suggesting this. But he's not going to resign over this. So if people are looking for a scalp,
I'm not looking for him to resign.
Here's the reality. Trump could actually be taking a position right now where he's screaming and yelling and saying, we need justice over the Epstein files. And it still wouldn't do very much because at the end of the day, Pam Bondi and the prosecutor's office, they're the ones who have the ability to prosecute. It is them alone. Prosecutors can decide they don't want to prosecute even if there's mountains of evidence based on prosecutorial discretion alone. Right? So they can pick and choose the powers in their court. This is on Pam Bondi. And I would say that a lot of the corruption problems in covering for the criminal syndicates and sex trafficking and these blackmail pimps is happening at the prosecutor, district attorney level. Okay, so it's going on in these DA offices. These are the people we need to be investigating and digging into and analyzing them and their lifestyles and their connections, because these are the ones who are covering for these powerful people at the end of the day. These are the ones.
And where are they elected, Billy? Where are they elected, the DAs? Where do they come from? Are they federally appointed?
They're paid by George Soros.
No, but they're local officials, and nobody's paying attention to that because they're too busy watching. Right, and they're watching Fox News and America. They're not paying attention to local.
Yeah, two more seconds, guys, and I'm done. I promise. So so she's going to ultimately fit. It's exactly what Millie was saying. Trump is not. He's the chief executive, but he's not the chief prosecutor. Okay, her job is investigations and prosecution. So again, he could be secretly very upset with how this was mishandled, and you have to go back to when he was appointing his AG and his cabinet back in the fall after the election. Is that again what he learned from some of the failures of Trump 1.0 was that you need to get people that can pass the Senate. Okay, again, I have to read it is relevant, guys, because we all want this person, that person, and create Everybody wants Jamar Chase at wide receiver. Doesn't mean it's going to happen in your fantasy football draft. He had to get somebody who was going to go in there and not piss off the rhinos on the Senate Judiciary Committee, get out of committee, get to the floor, and get at least 51 votes. That's it. End of story. Like, period. And the AG this is not the ambassador to Hungary. It is the most important position, obviously, in the DOJ. It's the head law enforcement person of this country. I saw from day one. I am not a Florida resident, but obviously Florida being a popular state, we all knew her history there. I didn't really see her as doing anything outstanding. It wasn't like she had a reputation like Ken Paxton has in Texas or Eric Schmidt when he was AG of Missouri. She'd been around a long time. She looks good on TV, but I don't know if she had the bona fides that some of these other people have had. So something to consider. I don't predict she's going to last the entirety of this term, but again, she's not pushing back on Trump with what his main goal is, the mass deportations, fighting the injunctions when they were in effect. That is why he's going to keep her around. That's my prediction, because
he's going to do that at his own risk then, because this is bad.
Yeah, he is. He is, and he'll take the political damage like he did in 2018 in the midterms with Jeff Sessions recusing himself, etc. Exactly. I mean, he's absolutely a root cause guy, and for now she's going to stick around again, unless.
But she should have never gone on Fox News and made those statements and tried to throw this bone to MAGA that she didn't even have. It doesn't matter if it was her fault or some underling that gave her that statement. The fact is, she was the one that made the statement. The buck stops there. And yes, unfortunately, you're right. That's kind of my point too. Like, deportation. Big issue. $175 billion in the omnibus bill has to be done now. Start doing it now. Close down the borders. Close down immigration. Get the freaking job done. That's what everybody voted for Trump for. 70% issue. And yet, we're all talking about this, which is very important. But Pam made it a bigger issue than it should have been because she went sensationalized it. It's so bad. You're not going to believe how bad it is.
I'm not going to stop talking about it.
I'm not saying it's
I might host a space about this big every day this week. Okay?
Here's the reality,
the reason
the underlying premise of what you keep arguing is that when she made those original statements, that was the time she was lying, right? Not this time around when they all did the 180 and are like, oh yeah, no, there's no Epstein list. Yeah, Epstein killed himself. But the problem with that is, how do we know if the first time was the lie or the second time was the lie? How do we know?
Well, if it happened in between, Millie, then that means that Cash and Bongino and a whole lot of other people we assume to be loyal to President Trump are all lying, because if it happened at that time, only Pam was lying.
Yeah, that's, I think, what people are concerned about.
Watch the swearing, please.
How is it that we are trying to compartmentalize this down? Like, this is the right. Like, let's just be clear. This isn't the levels that this had to fail at for us to get to this point without any of the transparency, without any of the accountability for any of these rich people who did all kinds of. The number of failures is so complete. It covers the local level, it covers the federal level, it covers multiple administrations. How are these elite pedophiles so powerful that here we are when everybody knows what was going down on the island? That yet they've been able to protect. This is only the final straw in that. And who are we supposed to, if it's not Donald Trump picking who's good, who are we supposed to elect to actually get justice and accountability for this level of elite sickos? Who? Like, where do we go from here in order to solve this problem and actually get some accountability? Who else is there?
And will they be allowed to do something even if they get into office?
How can they not be allowed to?
Watching it right now.
There's two ways you do it. You take over the system or you lock and load, period.
For me, I think we need to seriously look at like the Bukele model and some other models. Right? I hear you guys talking. Oh well, we have to have Senate confirmation. We can't. There's almost no one that's been like in the bureaucratic maze of this stuff who isn't culpable and guilty. Like we need to arrest everybody until we can sort out who's actually responsible. Like that, this is systemic left. In order for it to get here, it isn't just again, like I said, it's not one administration. Right? We're talking about decades of people covering up. We're talking about local offices. We're talking. I mean, this touches almost every. In order for it to continue at this level and get to this point where we're just being told, nothing to say here, folks. Just move along. It's so systemic that we have to seriously start thinking about like how we go from here in such a way that people have to be held. It's systemic. It's like core root level systemic, or it could never have gotten this far. And I just so for me trying to narrow it down defeats the purpose. This is our government and governments as a whole failure over the course of decades. And this is the shit we know about. I can't even imagine what's happening. It's terrifying to me. But we have to ask ourselves. I put the meme up, are we the baddies, the other day. Our system is allowing the kind of systemic abuse of children in order to leverage and blackmail people. Remember, we have some responsibility.
I want to piggyback. I want to required to actually administrate a private island. You've got cooks. You've got waiters. You've got hostesses. You've got doormen. I mean, like, if you show up at Epstein's Island, like, it's not a cabin in the woods. Okay, let's be real. I have seen in Branson's Island in the BVIs. Like, it's got multiple windmills on it. It's complete.
to vote our way into changing it. And we have to really take a serious look at how we go forward from here, because there is no universe where we can vote enough people in order to get this. There is something that is held over the hands of the people who get there. They are not the ones with the power.
But is that the case, Dustin, or were they wolves in sheep's clothing that were mimicking and mirroring the MAGA base and the MAGA people to get the support so that they could leverage themselves into the position to get the jobs?
I don't believe for a second that Trump, right? In order for that to be true, it had to be Trump, Bongino, and Cash for the better part of a decade, consistently and knowingly lying in order to deceive the voter base. It's much more.
That's not what Millie said. That's not what Millie said. She's saying that the members of Congress. See, this is why it's not so clear cut, Dale. All these people are mimicking the issues they think we want to hear. They've been doing it for a long time. Most of these people in Congress precede.
No, that is closer to what I said. They're mimicking and mirroring the base.
So I have a perspective from General Mike Flynn. He posted this about 26 minutes ago. I want to read it out. Attention, Epstein files sit rep. What everyone is missing are the children who were abused by Epstein's and others. I don't care whether he killed himself or not. For me, I want to believe FBI Director Cash and Dan Bongino, but with the FBI's track record with laptops, Hunter Biden, Anthony Weiner, Seth Rich, now Epstein, never mind the FBI's previous track record for telling the truth, it is really hard to fathom that something else isn't going on here. I think needs to be an incredible transparent briefing to the American people immediately by the DOJ. The lack of trust in the FBI and DOJ is so thick you can cut it with a knife. Come on, guys, the American people are not stupid or afraid to know the truth. I couldn't agree more. Well articulated. Let's go to Philip. He was patient with his hand up. He doesn't always do that.
The general texted me back, by the way. He said he's on doing media and he'll try to get here.
Hey, excuse me, it's fine.
Answering me, of course. Yeah. Go ahead, Chad. What were you saying?
Chill, Philip. You can bitch all you want.
What were you saying, though, Chad? The general texted you back what?
Which he texted me back, said he's doing media. He'll try to get in here.
Sweet, awesome. Thank you very much. Awesome, that's great. Go ahead, no, Philip's turn. I call him Philip. I call him Philip. I don't know if you can hear me, Millie. Go ahead, Philip.
Yeah, well, sorry about that, Chad. All you ever do is scold me. I mean, you go to my page, you scold
me. Let's not make this a personal beef between two people. It has nothing to do with the topic.
But yeah, okay, yeah, I'll move on.
That sounds hard.
So, yeah. So the issue I have with all of this is people are still going to be telling us how we have to feel about this. They're going to be telling us how we have to react to this. No, we're done with that. If you're one of the people who said, oh, it's only been 1 month, 3 months, 5 months, shut the fuck up. You're one of the people who said, trust Dan Bongino.